So let me throw again. Okay, clear all. So, for example, okay, this is your building, right? Say this is your main road here. So usually, say in Makati, the building facing the main road, isn't it? Okay, you should not allow that. So the building should face the small road, and then they will. Okay, so this one must be closed. So and then from here, the traffic will enter to the small road and then go to the big road. My drawing is not so good, but I hope I can I explain it clearly to you. Any comment, Andre, or anyone else?
So,
Yes.
I agree. I agree, sir.
Yeah, yeah.
Get it.
You got. I hope you understand the concept, nah? So, without good concept, okay, without good theory, what happened is everything mixed up. Then you have no goal, you have no purpose. Okay, so urban planner is supposed to create the concept. Based on that concept, you implement, right? Correct. Then when you implement, okay, the implementation must follow the vision of the planner, isn't it? Okay. Oh, right. Without that vision, then everything mixed up. Hmm? Okay. So I hope with this you understand. We discussed about uh, urban planning in general, okay, and the concept of road hierarchy. Okay, let me continue. Okay, so show you the slide. Okay, so these are the graph between uh, area per square meter per person, okay, and then compared to gasoline per person. Okay, so I don't know cities in the Philippines, no? So you need to check. But there is some kind of clustering if you look at these figures. Yeah, European cities tend to be compact. Yeah, so from one place to another is very small. That means the going uh, the efficient use of energy. Okay, uh, uh, Australian cities are in the green here. Okay, and U.S. or Canadian city are on the blue. Okay, uh, one place to another is very far. Right. So of course, this is the characteristic of the country. Okay, because why? Because the U.S., Canada, and Australia have very big land. No? Probably in Asia, we are probably similar to European cities. No? Area per square density, the urban density is very high. Okay, and going from one place to another is also very small. Okay, nowadays we have what is called smart city. Okay, uh, what is smart city? It's basically we want to use electronic method, the sensor, okay, to collect data, okay, and we want to digitalize that sensing device, that data that we collected, and based on that, we can monitor and we can analyze automatically, and then we can manage, yeah, everything in the city, including the traffic, transportation system, yeah, including the electricity, water. ways, probably including the crime, okay, and information system, school, hospital, and so on. So these are the smart city concept. Okay, so what make the city smart? Okay, it's a very broad concept that you can actually have a city that is smart by installing uh, each building, probably its room will have their own sensing device, okay, including in the street, okay, and from there, okay, we can share the data, so we call it open data, and based on that open data, okay, we uh, share data, then we can have a better decision for the city itself. Okay. Uh, for each building, for example, if I want to go home in my apartment, so okay, because of the IoT, for example, Internet of Things, so which is connected to my mobile phone. Okay, so when my place is already near, okay, my car, for example, near my building, okay, the air condition will start to turn on, for example, automatically. Okay. And then when I enter the room, the, the air condition is already comfortable. This is the example. Okay. For smart mobility, okay, uh, in the near future, okay, uh, all vehicles probably will be interconnected. So we call this V2X, vehicle to X. X is any other things. So including a car, say V to V, that's mean vehicle to vehicle. V to M, that's mean vehicle to motorcycle. V to P, that mean vehicle to pedestrian, and V to I, that mean vehicle to infrastructure. Okay, so that means there will be connectivity, okay, communication between vehicles to, for example, to infrastructure. Okay, so that means uh, for example, the traffic signal will be adjusted automatically based on the number of flow, example, or the bus, for example, will pass, okay, through will be prioritized to when it go near the intersection. Okay, the traffic signal will turn green automatically for the bus. These are the example. Okay, so any discussion about smart city that you want to say? Some of you have done deal with it and has been done. So you want to share something?
Sir, I'd like to share, but I think this should be off the record.
Oh,
So I
okay.
think
So you can close the name of the city. That's fine. Okay.
okay. So I think there will be an ITS project that will start next year.
Oh, okay. So what kind of ITS?
I think it's mostly targeted for traffic data collection.
Okay,
So that's it.
right. So traffic data collection can have many ways, right? So
Mm.
is it using camera, using wire in its intersection, or
Yes,
using?
sir. I think it's they will make use of cameras to for traffic counts,
Okay,
and they will set some tripwires for travel speed or travel time surveys.
right,
So
right,
that's it.
right. So based on the camera alone, okay, we can at at this point camera is pretty cheap actually, and computer vision, yeah, computer vision technology has been developed quite well. Okay, so with that we can actually count, okay, the number of vehicles in intersection. Okay, so using that ITS, okay, and the concept of ideal flow network that I will introduce in this class, you probably can also introduce within your agencies. Okay, we can go beyond the data collection. Actually, we can already inference. Yeah, what is the flow, speed, and density for the whole city out of certain number of data collection points. Okay, only based on camera, you can only say device probably 1,000 cameras in one city. Okay, but using that, you cannot make an inference or prediction on the total traffic flow, right? For all links. But using IFN, okay, you can actually do that already. So this is a new technology that you can also incorporate later on. This is what you will learn in this class anyway. Right. Okay, so next point is called smart growth. So let me show you in the slide. So, okay, what's the concept of urban smart growth? Smart growth in urban planning or transportation theory concentrate the growth in a compact, walkable urban center to avoid sprawl. Oh, okay. So it advocate compact, transit-oriented, walkable, bike-friendly land use, including neighborhood, school, complete street, mixed land use development with range of housing choice. So this is very interesting concept, isn't it? So instead of making the city grow bigger, okay, we want to have what is called compact city. Okay, so we don't want the city to sprawl. Why? Okay? When the city sprawl, okay, that means transportation become longer, right? So what is the goal of urban planning? Eventually, we want to create a living space for people to do their activities. Okay? We don't want people just to travel, to do transportation. Okay. Nowadays, on average, no, in Metro Manila, probably you travel around 1.5 hours to go to work, right? Up to 2 hours. Okay. I don't know in Davao how long, in your own town, so how long usually for people to go to work? Yes.
It will depend, sir, if there is a traffic policeman or not messing with the traffic light, because usually if there is traffic, you can expect that there is a traffic policeman at the corner trying to outdo the traffic light.
Okay. Okay. So commenting about traffic police. Now, probably we don't know, okay, whether that policeman happened to intervene in that intersection is because there is already problem, then they come to intervene, and then the public will perceive them as the troublemaker. It is one possibility, right?
Yes, but I noticed, sir, they have this tendency, like the traffic light flashes quickly for a few seconds. So everybody has an equal opportunity to get to where they want. But the traffic policeman tends to have this habit that they want this whole line to keep on going, and then make this other line long, and then stop, and then they fill it up first, and then make everybody go, instead of just
And
do it
okay,
you know,
okay.
fix
So in that case, the solution is simple, right? The solution is simple. So re-education. Okay, that mean probably UP can initiate certain re-education of traffic enforcer and traffic police, okay, so that they can understand, okay, what is the meaning of traffic signal, okay. Uh, if you can understand the best what the best AI nowadays is called neural network, correct? Right? Neural network is the best AI, okay, which create the ChatGPT and so on. Okay. Now, what we have is actually the real neural network, which is the traffic police, right? Meaning, a human being is always better than machine, in terms of capability in learning. Okay. So, uh, the problem is only the education part that probably create some kind of behavior, okay, that the traffic police will put the long traffic, the long flow in the major road probably longer than the others. So in this case, if they already learn how to do, okay, then they can do it better. Okay, so
Yes, sir. Sir, can I just add lang
yes,
sir?
go please, yes.
Most of the areas with higher traffic vehicle movement or intersections with higher traffic count, yung traffic policemen are assigned there during peak hours only, most of the
Okay.
time. Most of the time. And most of the traffic schemes or traffic counts, I mean the traffic signal, the seconds there are all, most of them are outdated. We actually do calculations for
Okay,
traffic signals. How many seconds should this
should be, yeah,
leg this leg should have? How many seconds does this leg should have? But
right.
sometimes the traffic here, our traffic in NCR is uh very different from the outside the NCR. So it really necessitates some human intervention, especially in peak hours.
Okay, okay. So again, when the engineering side already computed the traffic signal timing, okay. So in that case, it is supposed to be the job of the controller. Controller is a traffic signal controller. Usually, is already have certain algorithm inside that can compute this based on the traffic sensor. So in that case, uh, the purpose of traffic police is to intervene when the traffic controller is broken. Okay, right? So there is possibility on that, right? But traffic police should not intervene or should not have the right to intervene. Okay, when the traffic control is already working well. So this is a part of the law or SOP, probably standard operating procedure that you can introduce if you want. So again, for any problems that I think is kind of behavioral problem rather than the real problem. Yeah. So in this case, education is probably the key, or the law or education is probably the key to solve this. Okay, so in open planning concept, what I want to introduce is, look, we want the city to be as compact as possible. Okay, we don't want the city to grow bigger. In that case, when the city tend to grow a little bit bigger, so you can create what is called a green space. Okay, green space mean this area is not allowed. In this area, you are not allowed to build anything, only for greeneries. Okay, this green space will become the buffer. Okay, because you really strict not allowing any development in green space. Okay, yeah, cemetery is fine. Okay, so these are including in the green space, right? So garden or a cemetery, so they are allowed. Okay, monument is allowed, but any buildings or development, they are not allowed there. So by having this kind of buffer, then you uh, enforce, okay, the concept of limiting the urban sprawl. That means you want the city to remain compact. Okay, why we want the city to remain compact? Because when the city is small, okay, and tall, okay, high rise, that means to do activities is easier. Okay, yes, okay, go.
Sir, I'm just wondering because I don't know if you or any of my classmates have done any studies or feedback, but for example, Bonifacio Global City is supposed to be a
BGC,
compact
green,
and a plan.
yes.
Yeah. And I've seen how it looked in the beginning, but now that a lot of buildings are already there, what I've experienced there in the past few years has been that traffic is horrendous in the city. Like we're already inside Global Bonifacio City, but to get to another place, it would take you 30 minutes to an hour. So I'm just wondering, like, if it's supposed to be compact and it's supposed to be accessible, why is the traffic uh, um, horrid inside?
Okay, so probably the best question is like this. Can traffic congestion be solved?
Yes, sir.
Yes.
Yes.
Christine, tell me your
Yes.
opinion.
Yes, sir. I believe traffic congestion can be solved if we improve the transport services we provide. So for example, for Metro Manila, the transport mix relies heavily on private transport,
Okay.
which uh, uh, becomes heavy volume. So it's heavy in terms of volume on limited road space.
Mhm.
But if we are able to convert that amount
So
of
public
people being
transport.
transported to mass transit, such as railway or even buses, especially bus rapid transit, then we would decrease the volume of
Mhm.
vehicles. Because let's say one person is driving a vehicle, that's almost 2 meters in size.
Right, right.
2 meters by, let's say, 6 meters. Well,
Mhm.
sorry, 2 by 3 meters, let's say. Compared to a bus, which could be 18 meters by 4 meters, but you fit
Right.
in like 60 people or 40
Right.
people. So
Correct.
you immediately decrease the load on the street,
Correct.
on the roads.
Correct.
So it is
So,
possible.
but if the number of population increase, okay, and the economic still increase, eventually, even if everyone use bus or using train, it will still be congestion, isn't it?
Yes, sir. There are, I guess, operational measures which can be introduced
Okay.
to
So,
better. So for example,
mhm.
decreasing the headway between the trains.
Okay.
So instead of every 4 minutes, every 2 minutes.
Okay.
So something like that.
That's correct. So what you said is also correct. Okay. So we can optimize that one. Yeah. But again, at certain point, okay, you will have a breakdown. We call this a brick wall. That means, say, for example, if the headway is less than 1.5, there is a prone of accident, then you cannot make less than that, right? Then again, you will say congestion will happen again because remember, a city population keep increasing and city is compact, right? So one way to solve traffic congestion, this is the important, mark my word, okay? one way to solve traffic congestion is to understand why we do transportation. Okay. Transportation is a derived demand of activities. Okay. So nobody doing transportation unless they are doing sightseeing. Yeah. Okay. So if you do sightseeing, the transportation is for transportation, right? Because you want to see. Okay? But for any other purpose of transportation except sightseeing, okay, they are not doing transportation for transportation. In fact, transportation is a cost, isn't it? You don't like to do transportation. It's a pain. It's a cost. So you don't like transportation, but you still want the activity, correct? So in that case, if you know transportation is the derived demand from activities, the real purpose is not transportation. The real purpose is the activities. Now, with that, okay, we can introduce new concept. What is the new concept? You can do activities without transportation. That means the Ministry of Transportation should be together with the Ministry of Information, together with the Ministry of Public Work. They are should be combined together in one department. Why? Because, okay, to do the activities, you need to increase the high-speed internet. You can do it online. If you can do it online, why you need to be there? Right?
Actually, sir,
Okay.
I have some because
Objection?
that is a real problem. I'm currently in China right now, and
Right.
I'm for work, and here everything is unified.
Right.
So, unlike us, everything is fragmented in the Philippines. So, uh, I've been having a lot of lectures on highways, but I'm not from DPWH, so I can't really comment as much as I would have wanted to. But everything else, like railway, sports, aviation, then yes, I'm like, oh, yes, our department is in charge of that. Another thing is land use. Transportation is indeed a derived demand, which is something people often forget. That's why just last July, end of July, we signed a memorandum of agreement with the Department of Human Settlements and Urban Development. So that's basically for land use, because we want to advance the concept of transit-oriented development, and not just transit-oriented development in terms of urban design, but putting accessibility planning at the center for people to better access services and activities and economic opportunities.
Yep.
So now, so it's really just beginning, but we are in the process of trying to find ways to better integrate land use and urban and transport planning.
Very good. So if your internet speed is very high, right? So people will change their behavior. So meaning the activities will change. In that case, okay, a lot of activities that is not necessarily to be there. Okay, you can do it online instead of to be there. Then demand of transportation will go down, right? So I predicted, okay, this is my own prediction, okay, in the future, okay, when the internet is really very good, okay, all this highway that you make like 5 lanes, 6 lanes highway will be no more. Now all become guarded because people will not travel unless they do sightseeing or maybe jogging, okay, in the near future. Okay, the real transport probably goods, service, logistic, okay, not for work, for school. Okay, so people go to school consists of 20%. Go to work is like 40%. That's 60% of the traffic is coming from the work and school, which majority of them are exchanging information, not material. Can you see that?
Yes.
if you can start to think concept, nah, what is my am doing? Am I exchanging information or am I exchanging material? Say, I'm a construction worker, then they must be there because they are doing material things. Okay, I'm a cleaner. Yes, you must be there because you need to clean there. Okay, okay, but I'm an office worker that I make just documents. You don't need to be there.
Yes. Um,
Yes.
Actually, sir, like in my experience as an architect, and then during the pandemic,
Mm-hmm.
um, a lot of us, especially those who are into design or are introverts, actually thrive. And prior to the pandemic, there seemed to be a sort of a um, bias if you're an architect and you don't have an office,
Mm.
uh, because they feel like to be established, you have to have an office. But
Mhm.
after the pandemic, we all realize that working from home is better.
Correct.
You change the mode of salary based on not on the time but production output.
Correct.
So a lot of us after the lockdown still have not gone back to a full-time office mode, and we only meet now if we need to go to the site because we
Right.
need to check things, and sometimes even that we can just ask the foreman to go on a video call so we can check what his problem is. So now we are not restricted to an 8 to 5, but we can actually design and work 2, 3, 4 a.m. in the morning and be available in the afternoon. And it solved
Exactly.
a lot. It helped us a lot creatively. So
Yes.
I think that is one good thing the pandemic and being online brought about and
Right.
changed.
So, long time before pandemic, so in like 2008, 2009, so I gave a lot of speech about queuing theory, okay, that we need to separate, okay, information from material. So I keep asking, if money material or information? Okay, money is information, not material, right? So key to the hotel is material or information? Okay. Key is actually information, isn't it? Not material. Okay. So all documents from the government, okay, are actually information. So they need to change the way of thinking that we can provide the service, okay, through information, meaning through internet, rather than need to go to queuing in the government office and so on. There's no more of this need. So all we need to do is to introduce this concept. Yeah. So we learn this in the school in urban planning. I hope through this conversation, okay, you probably want to influence the others. Okay, that hey, why we need to queue if what we exchange is actually information, not material, right? Why we need to be there? What we exchange is actually only information. We don't need to. Okay, try to separate which one is information and which one is material, physically to be there. In fact, in the near future, you will see that even the construction, okay, with the 3D print, this is mostly already information rather than material, right? Okay, so urban planner need to catch up with this kind of technology, okay, to catch up with this kind of concept, right? That look, we need to separate now, okay, which one is material and which one is information. So this is very important concept that I hope we can start to introduce to others. Any comment? Any discussion? Feel free. If you want to eat, no problem. Okay. Okay. Yeah. So with that, I want to introduce you to the next point with the next slide. I hope. Uh, let's open that. slide, which is land use transportation interaction. Okay. Land use transportation interaction. That is my slide. Oh, there. Ini. Okay, can you see? Okay, so with this we will start to have computation. Okay, well, let's introduce the concept first before we go to the mathematics of it. So these are the common transport problem, isn't it? Okay, congestion, capacity, safety, yeah? High user costs in fare, in terms of fare and travel time. Okay, high facility costs. Okay, lack of privacy. Why people don't like public transport is because of lack of privacy, right? Okay, and probably common transportation problem is discomfort, noisy, yeah? Appearance is not that good. Okay, especially on the public transportation, on lack of reliability, okay, lack of integration. So we need so many transfer and waiting. So these are the common transport service problem. Okay. And probably lack of universal design. So for example, for disabled people, elderly, okay, so lack of excessive like right of way, okay, and relocation. So it seems like you want to do everything for transportation, and eventually there is no more space for activities. No, everything become road, right? And air pollution and noise and inefficient energy consumption. So these are common transportation problem, including the visual intrusion for appearance. So you can see many of the highway tall, okay, stuck on each other. So the sun cannot go in, right? So a very poor appearance, and the undesirable land development and land value will become very crowded. Okay. And then unequal social impacts among the population groups because of transportation. Okay, so if you look at the transport demand, okay, and supply, okay, transport supply. So this is on the x-axis. The horizontal axis is the time, so time in a day, and say in the vertical axis here in the top is the traffic, and the bottom is the travel time. Okay, so typical. So this is the morning peak and evening peak usually, and transport supply constant. So the number of lane in the road, for example, is remain constant, isn't it? So the transport supply remain constant this green, okay, but the transport demand is going up and down. So very typical transport demand and supply in a day. Right? So the time where the transport demand is oversupply, and the time that the transport demand is actually lower than the supply. So these are the one that create the congestion. Right? So, but if you look at this problem, okay, this is a recurring problem, meaning every day we face the same problem. Every day we face the same problem, similar to disaster in the Philippines. Okay, every year you face the same problem. Okay, it's always come at the same natural disaster. Congestion is also daily. We face the same problem. But why we cannot cope with this? No? If we face the same problem again and again, we supposed to learn, right? We supposed to cope with this problem. Why until now we cannot solve this problem? Okay, so this is a strange, right? Because is actually a vicious circle. Okay, so congestion come from the number of trips. Okay, so the number of trips come from the length of movement. Okay, that length of movement come from the open sprawl, right? So when you have the congestion, then it will become a public pressure to increase the capacity. That means you will do road widening, right? This is the most common way is, okay, let's build more road, let's widen the road, okay? With this kind of vicious circle, okay, when the road is widened, then there is a new capacity. Then you said, okay, this is better. Then the movement is become easier, okay? When the movement become easier, people will travel longer, okay, and then urban sprawl is favored over compact city. Okay, so this vicious circle. Okay. So to solve this, you need to break the circle. Okay, to solve this, you need to break the circle. So one way is to make so that the city is compact. You design the city so that the city is compact. So say I give you example. Okay, I give you example. So in Japan, for example, uh, school, elementary school, okay, uh, they should not travel very far. So within 1 kilometer, they need to walk from their home to the school. So secondary school also, they cannot travel that long. They need to walk or bike to school. Okay, using this kind of rule, yeah, to the school, you reduce a lot of school trip. Okay, uh, of course, you see, transportation is not just transportation. You don't solve transportation within transportation. If you solve transportation within transportation itself, then what you have is only adding link, isn't it? And adding widen the road. So this is not good solution. Okay, or probably introduce public transport, as Christine told a while ago. Okay, so uh, but use of not just within transportation. So use of within other activities. Because remember, transportation is derived demand. Okay, then you need to solve it within that demand. Can you understand? So if you solve it within say education, the demand for education. So you solve it within the demand for education. So you shorten the length of the trips, for example, okay, by introducing the rule. Okay, so children in Japan, say elementary school, they should not use car. Okay, even if they use car, they must stop 100 meter and then they need to walk. Right. This introduce equality among the students. No? They don't show off their car to their classmates. Right. This is the example in education. So the same thing. You can start to introduce mixed land use. Okay, not single land use. So personally, I in favor for mixed land use. Why? Because all the activities is there. Okay, with that you can have a compact city. Then you travel very short. Okay, not very long. Imagine you go from well your place, your resident place to your office for 2 hours, going in to the office and then come back another 2 hours. That means 4 hours per day. How many days you work? Say 5 days in a week. So 4 times 5 is 20 hours in a week already. That's a lot of waste, no? Isn't it? So waste of productivity is that 20 hours in a week. That 1 month you already spend 80 hours for doing something that you really don't like, actually, isn't it? And strangely, you accept that. Why you accept, right? So then let's discuss. No, let's negotiate with your office. No? So why don't we look? This is the job that actually exchanging information, not material. Can we do it online? Right? In fact, we can start to negotiate. Look, you are using my home as an office, so you need to pay me more because now I'm using my own electricity now. I'm now using my own internet service, right? So, okay. And I'm doing it now more productive because, I'm not tired to go to work because I have less time to do transportation. So this is something that you need to negotiate, right? Work from home is not, so I just wonder why they come back, after the pandemic, they come back to offline again. So this is so strange, yeah? So okay, as if the pandemic did not give you certain lessons. So these are the apparent lesson for a transport problem. Okay, one is population growth. This is the main factor. Okay, suppose there is a war. Okay, so we don't hope to have a war, but suppose there is a war, then population growth is going down. Okay, so even during pandemic. Okay, so say very big pandemic that actually kill a lot of people. So population growth going down, then traffic is no more. That is certain. The same thing with economic growth. Okay, so if the income growth is actually lower, okay, then people don't use public. People don't use car anymore. Okay, then of course the traffic is going down. Okay, so we probably don't like that. Okay, but that's the matter of fact. So that means we want the population still grow. Okay, population growth is not something that we don't want. We want it. The same thing with economic growth. We want economic to grow. Okay, with that means the congestion is always there unless you change the the, the activities, okay, the way to do transportation. Okay, so industrial development, migration. Okay, more over time. Okay, more cities, right? More urban areas than before. Okay, before was the agricultural land. Okay, and then growth become city. You know? And of course the motorization, yeah, the introduction of car, which is just like 100 years, but it influenced us so much, isn't it? Okay, and again, land use development. Okay, single land use is the problem that create big transportation. Okay, uh, uh, peak hour. Okay, peak hour of travel timing. Isn't that strange? Okay, why there's a peak hour? Something like this, isn't it? Why? Because the office hour is almost the same, isn't it? Because the office hour is almost the same. So that's strange. Why we want the office hour to be the same, right? So we don't have to. Okay. So when I was working in Europe. Okay. Uh, we need to be in the office from 10 to 2 o'clock. Okay, from 10 o'clock to 2 o'clock only. But we still work 8 hours, yeah? 7 hours and 42 minutes. That's very peculiar in Austria. So say 8 hours, okay? So 8 hours per day, but you can come anytime. For example, you come at 8, 8 o'clock or you come 6 o'clock in the morning, that's fine. As long as between 10 to 2, that's the meeting hour, right? You must be there. So this is flexible hour will solve a lot of recurring problems. isn't it? So I wonder why would we introduce this uh, uh, to many offices, also in the school, right? Staggering work hour, changing, making the work hour flexible, okay, and solve. Because once we solve this peak hour problem, okay, basically when the demand is not over capacity, so there is no problem, right? There is no real congestion. Okay, so and this is only a few hours of where the congestion happen. Okay, then we can solve many ways, not just using public transport. No? So starting hour is just management. So this is very cheap, no? Okay, just rule, just negotiation. So this is very cheap way. No need infrastructure, isn't it? Okay, so I hope we can solve this. Once we know the cost, then we can solve. Right? So urban growth population is always going up and projected will continue to grow, yeah, exponentially, right? The same thing with the urbanization, okay, will continue to grow, okay. So Metro Manila is like now about 15 million, right? Very big, yeah. So with 15 million, so if we use rule of thumb, so 1 million is lane, one line of MRT or LRT. So that means we actually we need at least 15 line at this point. How many line do you have right now? Okay. So yeah. So the urban population in Asia is actually larger than any other place in the world. Okay. So we tend to be a compact city and already compact city, and that's why public transport, okay, in our place, our cities are actually better. Huh? So chipney system is actually very good compared to US, for example. Huh? Every 3 minutes you can ride chipney in Metro Manila. Huh? You can always and you can go anywhere, and the price is also very cheap. So okay, so in terms of public transport, Metro Manila is actually very excellent already, whether you realize it or not. Okay. So, say you go to San Francisco, there is only one part and one line. Okay. That's the only public transport. So there is no choice. Then you need to buy car, right? So yeah, in terms of percentage urban population, again, okay, we are not really the highest. Huh? So, but over time it grows. Huh? Right. So for the cost of transportation a while ago, is there any discussion you want to say? Anything to discuss? Okay, if not, I will continue with this next point. So again, transportation is a derived demand. No? So from human activities and need. So it's significant to socio-economic growth and urban center in general. Okay, so and when we say transportation, please don't say that it is only road and rail. Okay? When we say transportation, it can be also including the air transportation, water, pipeline. Okay, that's also include passenger and goods. Okay, so again, transportation is derived demand of activities. That means depending on the purpose. Okay, it can be purpose of working, maybe vacation, manufacturing. Okay, can be a direct demand for commuting, okay, for logistic truck container ship, for example, or indirectly will affect the warehousing or energy demand and so on. Okay, so in terms of energy for the transportation mode, okay, ship ship transportation, water transportation is actually still the most efficient in terms of energy. Yeah. So comparing energy cost with the speed here, the speed in the horizontal axis uh, and the vertical axis energy cost, you see the worst performance is actually car and bus, isn't it? Yeah. And train is more efficient. Bicycle is also more efficient. And the ship, the tanker is very efficient but very low speed. Okay, so helicopter is another efficient. A jet plane is efficient, and supersonic plane is in the yellow. Yeah. The best performance is of course down there. Yeah, in if you have a high speed and low energy cost. So I don't know. Probably you can introduce this in the future. I don't know at this point. Okay, so noise level. Okay, these are the ambience in terms of decibel. Okay, so and transportation will create around 60 decibel, like busy streets, and lorry, motorcycle, underground train is around 90 decibel. Okay, when the aircraft take off, usually around 120. So that's why residential area near the airport, for example, usually will have a double glass to reduce the noise level. So when the noise level is very high, okay, especially in the bedroom during the night, so it will create annoyance, and it will eventually create a higher stress level. Okay, so look, people live in the city is for doing activities for living space rather than for transportation. So please consider that in your design, yeah, in urban planning. Okay, and transportation itself is actually multimodal, meaning you can use many modes. Okay, so then when you design the transportation, okay, you need to start to think not just one mode, but many mode. Okay, so we can think each mode is just like a layer. So say this is the land use on the ground, okay, and then the road network on itself, and then say you start to create what is called pedestrian network, okay, and then the bus lane, the bus network, and then the rail, for example, and bike, and then the car itself. No? So one thing I want to emphasize is probably the bike network and the pedestrian network. So up to this point, many cities did not yet adopted pedestrian network, isn't it? They only create say sidewalk or walkway, okay, uh, only certain areas and then stop, isn't it? Okay, there is no real network for pedestrian. So this is a very big lacking in the concept. Okay, in fact, if you look at the say city like PGC and Makati, okay, what make them develop? Or you go to Singapore, for example, okay, what make them develop? Is actually the sidewalk, isn't it? Can you see that? Huh? The the existence of the sidewalk. Okay, so a long time ago when I worked in Ateneo, I said the same thing. Okay, and look, if you want to develop, okay, you need to develop the sidewalk, and eventually they agree. And if you look at go inside Ateneo de Manila, you will see the sidewalk inside the campus. No? Okay, and all the utilities are under the sidewalk, so you can see there is no electric wire inside the campus. Okay, so the existence of sidewalk is very important because now you can create the utility under the pedestrian walkway. Okay? There is no more problem of the utilities. So you don't keep digging, right? So you keep digging because of water, you keep digging because of the electricity, because of the internet. So you keep digging again and again. Okay, but when you put uh, sidewalk, okay, a walkway, the same road width as the walkway is the same width as the road. Then, okay, you will have a better view. You will have a better design. Okay, this become a rule in Japan. You have, if you go to Japan, you will see the road width and the width of the bike plus the for pedestrian, they are equal. Anywhere you will see, they are equal. Okay, so very nice concept, no? Can you see? Okay, so pedestrian is actually you. You are also in certain point. Okay, even if you use car, right? At certain point, you will become pedestrian, isn't it? Either from the parking lot to your the building, you become pedestrian, isn't it? So pedestrian is actually you. When you acknowledge, okay, or honoring pedestrian, then you honoring yourself, isn't it? Okay. So why? Okay. Until now, okay, concept of pedestrianization, pedestrian network is not yet there. Urban planner tend to ignore pedestrians. This is very sad, isn't it? Okay. So I hope you can start to introduce. No? The pedestrian must be equal to car, must be equal to public transport. You know? Because you create a pedestrian walkway, then people will use public transport. You know, people don't use public transport because they don't have access, isn't it? Hmm? The reason why they don't use public transport because you don't have pedestrian walkway because they don't walk. You see, this is the missing link that is actually you need to introduce. You see, okay. If you want to introduce public transport, okay, and next is of course parking. No, so you introduce parking building. Say you want to people to use public transport, then you need to introduce parking buildings. Correct? Because people will park there, park and ride, right? People will park from the house, yeah, access to the nearest public transport station, right, or the hubs, and then they will use the public transport. Uh, so you introduce public parking buildings. So from the parking building to the uh, public transport station or the stops, you need to create a route for the pedestrian. Okay. And if possible, should be covered so that during the rain, people still can use, isn't it? So, in Singapore, for example, every housing, no, government housing, SDB, okay, you can see even from the apartment building to go to the bus stop, yeah, there is covered walkway. Yeah, covered walkway. So very important. Why? Because they want to encourage public transport use. Okay. So you cannot just telling people, oh, we will introduce public transport, but you don't provide facility to go to the public transport, isn't it? So walkway is the crucial here. So you need to introduce pedestrian network, not just walkway. Okay, network. So you need to create an inventory of pedestrian network, okay, alongside with the uh, transport network, like for the vehicles or public transport. Okay, so you create bike lane, isn't it? So don't introduce just bike lane in one section of the road. That is not good. right? You need to create a network of bike lane. Then people will use. Okay, you don't create things for show, isn't it? Huh? That you have a bike lane. That is no use, just for show. Eh? So you create something so that people will use, right? Then create a network, not just a section, but a network. Then people will start to use. Okay, correct. So okay. So we have 6 more minutes. So okay, please discuss about this. What is your comment? I keep randomly talk about this and that. I hope I introduce new concept to you. I hope probably mostly you already know. Okay, but uh, I really want to inspire, yeah, through this uh, class. I want you to be inspired that uh, you are the leader of the countries. You are the urban planners. You see, right? So you're supposed to introduce this concept. You need to tell that this is the one that you need to do. Okay. Without this telling, then uh, no, because no purpose, no vision, right? Urban planner is supposed to be planner. That means you are the visionary, isn't it? Right? Right? Yeah, go.
Yeah. Here in Davao, we have a lot of bike lanes already.
Right.
But I think aside from our, let's say, concepts, I think we also need to consider maybe the weather or the quirks, or
Okay.
maybe the people need to be educated more, because now that it's been in place and there are even cat's eye at night, so it's very safe, you'd notice that the amount of people using it is very, very small. And
Oh,
most of the people who ride the bikes here are athletes who would do it on the weekends when they are free from work. So in effect, what happened is that it merely narrowed down the lanes for the cars, because now we have a bicycle lane that the amount of people using it is practically maybe 1%, 2% to zero.
oh,
Some people
oh,
are saying like the effect is that it just made the car lane smaller. And then there is a sentiment that says that although we want to have it really be environmentally friendly for people and bikes, there is now a sentiment going that maybe that should be used for the people on motorcycles, because there are a lot of motorcycles weaving in and out of the cars. So I really just don't know why people still don't use it. Maybe it's also because of the weather, because it's very hot and humid, and then to ride a bike
right.
and you
So,
arrive sweating. So
is it a network?
yes, sir. I think they started it, and for the most part, it is a network. Like it's continuous in all
Meaning,
parts.
meaning, okay. So, when they introduce that bike lane, do they survey? Is there any demand?
I'm not really sure. I think the
Um,
city is really
right.
just us. There is a lot of demand for, like, we have to go green, and then because biking is an equitable way
Right.
of transportation, but right? And actually, the traffic is very strict. If you're a car, you cross the bike lane, you really get fined. Like even if you
Okay.
have one
Okay.
tire on the bike lane. So
Okay.
it's just that I think locally, or maybe even for Manila,
Hmm.
although a lot of people also want the bike lane, I think for most part, of the bigger problem in traffic are the motorcycles.
Okay, so probably if there is a demand, high demand for motorcycles, so probably you want to change that to bike lane to motorcycle lanes. So in Vietnam, if you see, they have a separate motorcycle lanes, okay, because the number of motorcycles is very high. Okay, so also in Indonesia, the number of motorcycles like 70%. So then they have a special lane for a motorcycle. Okay, so uh, I'm afraid that when they introduce the bike lane, they don't consider the actual demand, meaning there is no real demand, but there is only demand for environment, not rather than the real demand that people want to use it. So yeah, so again, this is a very difficult problem because which one is first, right? You provide the supply first, or you uh, based on the supply you create the demand, or there is a demand first, then you create the supply. So we don't know which one first. No? So again, this is chicken and egg. So hoping that by creating the bike lane, right, then you create the demand. So you create the supply first, and then you create the demand. So that is one possibility also. Okay, so if they already introduced the supply, that means the bike lane, then you probably need to do a campaign for the bike. That means, hey, this is safe. Okay, Andre, you want to say something?
Sir, I just want to comment since I'm a cyclist myself. So
Yes.
I bike to work to Makati around siguro every other week, every once a week. So
Okay.
I understand yung sentiment na a bike lane is just takes away a lane. So and I personally don't think it's true.
Oh.
Because the reason I find that the reason most bike lanes are empty is because the cyclists have already passed the cars. So you can see traffic. You can see traffic on the bike lane simply because nauna na sila. They already arrived at their destination first. So and also if we're talking about demand, there's a recent study. I hindi ko pa I haven't found it yet, but I was trying to find it that around more than 50% of households in Metro Manila have bikes,
Oh.
and a considerable amount use them to go to work, to other places, as opposed to the less than 20% of private vehicles. Again, this is in Metro Manila, so I don't
Okay,
know the case
so
in
the
Davao.
probably culture, no? So
Yeah,
you need to introduce the culture of using bike, probably. Okay.
yeah. I don't think it's like underused na again maybe because the reason kung bakit the reason bike lanes are seen as uh what do you call this takes away from the road is because people simply don't people are not used
Hmm.
to other forms of transportation other
Correct.
than private vehicles in our cities.
Right, right.
So I think if people start to realize that private cars are not the only way
Correct.
to go to other place, maybe the cars are the problem. That's why we're stuck in traffic
Well,
for 3 hours.
it's
Uh,
not the car is the problem.
yeah,
It's the way of our thinking is the
yeah,
problem, right? So
yes,
we tend to think that transportation is so important, then we need to use car. Okay, then again, if you can start to think that what is transportation? Transportation is derived demand from activities. Remember that, right? So that means try to change the activities rather than the transportation itself. So, so one way is to create work from home. Okay, go.
To add to what Andre said, I think part of the problem is that um basically you have the bike riders. Basically they are not a nuisance on the road because they keep to their lanes and everything. What makes it driving difficult are actually the motorcycle drivers, because they like to weave in and out of
Oh,
traffic, and then all of a sudden you hit them and stuff like that. So I think part of the problem why people say that we need to use the bicycle lane for the motorcycle is because when you're on the road and you see the bicycle lane, basically motorcycle riders are more in terms of quantity than bicycle riders, and then you see the lane, and then a motorcycle drives past you, nearly hitting you. So you start to think, why is it empty? Why can't they just move there so they can keep me safe on the road? So I think that's just, I think that's one thinking there.
Yeah, Christine. Yeah.
Yes. So actually, I commute to work. I walk and take the train all the
Okay.
time. So I recognize the difficulty with motorcycles because my office is along EDSA in Green Hills. So from Santolan, I walk 600 to 700 meters roughly to my office along EDSA.
Okay.
And the motorcycle riders aren't content with already using the bike lane, like literally they occupy the entire bike lane. They also occupy the sidewalk. I have almost been hit, like I can't even count how many times. So yeah, one thing I guess we should probably have policy on how to better allocate
Well,
our road space
right.
for
So,
motorcycles, for cyclists, and I feel like uh this I'm not really sure, but traffic management, but I think that's under the purview of local governments on how they can make roads one way so that the allocation to each user type is bigger rather than when it's two-way. It's just car going one way, southbound, northbound. But if it's all going northbound, right? So car, and then you can have the motorcycles, and then you can have the bikes, and then the people. I'm not sure, but for that's for the local roads. But I think for the national, well, not national, but in Metro Manila, it's MMDA. So
right.
yeah, it's something worth
Yes.
looking into. Because I really relate to the motorcycles. I mean, I've
Yes.
almost died so many times.
So,
Sir,
yeah.
to add to Christine, actually that's true in Katipunan at 7 or 8 in the morning. You cannot walk in the sidewalks because all of it was used by
Oh,
motorcycles, and they come in droves. So actually it's practically they're like the size of a car. So funny story, one time I was so pissed off, I was gonna take a photo or a video so I could report it to MMDA, Department of Transportation or whatever to complain. And then there's this one motorcycle guy. He slowed down and told me, "Miss, don't do that. You're gonna get somebody will take your somebody will snatch your phone." So see, he was so nice to me. I decided now, okay, I just won't take a video anymore. But it's like that, and they drive really, really fast when they're in droves.
okay. Joshua, you want to say something?
Yes, Prof. Actually, this is basically on my observation with regards to the creation of bike lanes, and similar to what the sentiments of Miss Grace. I am also a driver and frequently experience nuisances from motorcycle drivers. Um, Part of it, though, the bike lanes were actually put into action or put into place, especially during the pandemic. As you guys remembered, this social distancing
Yeah.
was affected, and so public transportation was quite difficult. So most of our workers would have to take, material workers would have to take or travel by bikes. Unfortunately, when the restrictions or when the quarantine levels were uh, lightened up, there were issues or there were concerns that actually by certain bicycle advocates, friends of mine, or that were involved into certain accidents or at the worst, a demise. And that's why there was a reduction, actually a visible reduction of people taking the bike lanes along EDSA.
Hmm.
And more so when the traffic was really, right now, traffic is almost back to normal. Traffic congestion is back to normal. Some people, most especially those working in offices, would experience or have that foul scent or foul smell from traveling alongside these vehicles, despite the buses being in the middle lane already.
Okay.
And as going back to Ms. Gray's comment, if these motorcycle drivers would take the bike lanes, they're actual nuisance as well to bicycle users this time, because they tend to speed up, which
Okay.
bicycle people or enthusiasts would not be able to meet and present themselves at risk if they share the lanes with them. So
Okay.
I guess it goes back to certain regulation or certain re-education
Enforcement, yes.
in terms of for motorcycle drivers. I recently took my license renewal and came across certain having restrictions for motorcycles as well. It caught me by surprise that there's only a certain minimum requirement for a person to be allowed to use a motorcycle. That is to be able to reach the clutch and the gears. And then if regardless of age, 16 and even lower, but as soon as the person is able to reach the clutch and the gears, he can actually own and he actually get a license to drive a motorcycle.
Right.
Which defeats the purpose of responsibility if he causes harm or if accident comes into using the vehicle or if he gets into an accident. Those things. More so understanding the traffic rules.
Right.
Regardless of being a two-tire vehicle, I always respect them as similar as a four-tire vehicle, allowing them the space. But
Right.
it's quite annoyed when they actually, what we call it, squala. They would signal on the right and then overtake on the left. And then revolve on front of you as if
Okay.
annoying you and then speed up. And that's
Right.
quite frequent with motorcycle drivers. Worst of it is the instances when these are the taxi or the angkas or joyride who have actual passengers with them who are also being put into risk.
Okay.
So yes, it goes back to attending to what is actual demand for this modes of transportation, and the question of who I would eventually comes to play, as Ms. Christine mentioned, will it be the LGU, the national government? But somebody has to initiate re-education somehow and regulate, focus on the regulation of not just providing the transport.
Right. So there are all the one that you just reported, based on observation, okay, are people behavior, motorcycle driver behavior, isn't it? Okay, so that means to solve the behavior problem, okay, there are three. Okay, we call it 3E. Remember, number one is education. Okay, second E is enforcement. Right? The third E is engineering. So through education can be through media probably. Okay, so through the related government agency, for example, if they want to take the license, they need to do certain education, right? Or if the police catch them, they need to be re-educated, right? So second is enforcement. That means you need to have a stricter enforcement on the behavior that is not acceptable, right? So of course, the motorcycle going to the sidewalk or to go to the bike lane, that is not acceptable. But if they don't get caught, then there is no enforcement, right? So then you need to introduce that the enforcement must be there. Okay. And the last one is engineering. So that engineering part is actually to separate the lane, for example. So those are the engineering part. So again, what we face is actually behavior, okay? But don't get catch up with the behavior itself, okay? So you need to think, what is the solution? The solution is we can categorize into these three E, no? Engineering, education, enforcement. Okay, with that we can. I hope we can solve. Okay, so very nice discussion. Sorry for going extending like 30 minutes. Yeah. So let's see for next week. So I hope you can read beforehand. So in this case today I have no assignment. Okay, so for next week, can you read land use transport interaction, especially the point that we will compute? Okay, so this is the one that I will compute with the formula here. I hope you can see. Okay, try to compute it in the house before the class so that we can push with this. Okay. Yeah, so thank you very much for today's class and thank you for coming on time. Okay. See you next meeting. Okay. If you still have any friends want to join the class, that's still welcome. No? Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, Prof. Good night.
Thank you, bro.
I hope you enjoy. Yeah, and
Thank
good
you,
evening.
sir.
Bye, everyone. Keep safe.
Yes.